Hello, how you doing? I have the link below to this PDF document. It's only 1.5 megabytes that I've written for you. Um, I promised this to you yesterday. It contains a diagram that I discovered many months ago, and I should have done this years ago because I've been investigating the harmonic incommensurability of the 108, 36, 36 Pythagorean triangle for a long time. That specifically makes up the geometry, the only, according to the Pythagoreans, and it certainly is, not just according to them, the only geometry of harmonic perfection and proportionality in the entire universe. That specific geometry. I have a few diagrams here. I'd like to flesh out the article later. Now, some of the esoteric writings in relationship to understanding the arithmetic of golden section proportionality, such as phi to the power of -3, phi to the power of -2, phi, or 1 over phi, phi squared, and phi cubed, might be a bit esoteric, but it's not required to understand the nature of water. I actually have the same diagram dissected 3 different ways for your understanding, with different highlights on what is to be understood. And it even startled me back in June when I thought this up. I thought necessitatively it must be the case that the basis for all life itself and for consciousness, of course, must fit like a perfect lock, a perfect key inside of a perfect lock. And not only did it, it does it on many different levels. Bases of 1 phi and 2 plus phi to the power of -2, or life. It's quite amazing. Also, too, the angle for life itself, and it would take a long time to explain. There's 3 actual perfect angles, or golden angles, if you will. There's the angle of 85 degrees, 108 degrees, and 137.5077, or 137.5. By the way, if you doubt this, you can do a Google search, type in 137.5 nature, 137.5 golden angle, and you'll see this harmonic perfection exists in nature. You'll actually see countless examples. Even if it's off by a third of a degree, it doesn't work. Also, too, interestingly enough, the angle, which equals 1, and it would take a long time to explain, but 85 degrees equals 1. If you actually multiply phi, and 1 is to phi is to 1, multiply phi times 85 degrees, you end up with the golden angle of 137.5 degrees in the totality. Also, too, I should have shown you a sand dollar. You actually take the base of the sand dollar, which is 85 degrees. The remaining 2 angles that make up the totality of the sand dollar is 137.5 on either side. This is the phyllotaxis of perfection, and also, too, is a proportionality of 1. 137.5 relational to the rest if you take out 137.5 out of 360 degrees. Also, 2 represents 1. This also, too, takes a long time to explain, that these 3 golden angles, just as phi is to 1 as 1 is to 5, the angles of 85 degrees, 108 degrees, and 137.5077, or 137.5 for short, all equal 1 in perfect harmonic proportionality. Also, too, interestingly enough, it is the case that the plane of inertia, because water is a polar molecule, the plane of inertia, you can see here in the white line, actually is at the angle of 85 degrees, which makes up life. But once again, this document is, the link for it is below. It's only 1.5 megabytes. But I give you enough that you're able to stare at it and understand. Also, too, fascinatingly enough, many months ago, I found it amazing, but it shouldn't have amazed me at all, that every subsection adds up to the axis of oxygen and the axis of hydrogen, and the base of the same, which is 1 phi and 2.3819666, or actually 2 plus phi to the power of -2, equals 5, as the Pythagoreans said. Everything is complete in the pentad. There's just, it doesn't matter how you look at it or how you examine it. There's perfect divine harmonic proportionality at absolutely every turn, everywhere you look, in relationship to everything else. Once again, the angle for the, as outlined in this inverted red V of 85 degrees between the hydrogen and the oxygen is the plane of inertia of the dipolar molecule that is water. It's um, Once again, some of the esoteric stuff below is not necessary that you understand it. It's kind of like reading the Parmenides. I don't know if you've ever tried reading Plato's Parmenides, but they're the greatest Platonic scholars of all time, argue in countless books, literally, essentially, what the heck does this mean? What is it saying? You know, you could read it over and over and over again, unless you have this primer or key in your head. You're not going to get what it's saying, even though you've read it. You might have even memorized it. It's like, what is it saying? I memorized it, but I still don't know what it says. So, the esoteric explanations of Pythagorean arithmetic and the proportionality of phi to the power of -3, i.e. 2.3606, and what its representation is relative to the Euristostais, also 2 phi to the power of -2, which represents the psyche to pantos, or the soul, if you will, conventionally. Here's me holding a pine cone down in Florida. That's 137.5077 degrees. It's the golden angle of growth, just as 85 degrees is the golden angle of life, and 108 is the golden angle of manifestation between the agathon and the Euristostais, both of which are one, i.e. principle and attribute. So I was remiss to actually publish this because even though I need to flesh this article out, these three diagrams, if you take a look at them and read what's being said, and they have the acuity to break through it intellectually, it's fascinating. That is, of course, only if you're interested in understanding water, because water has countless amazing characteristics and properties. There's lists online everywhere about the fascinating properties of water. So it is no coincidence, undeniably, that this geometry of water fits like a perfect key once again into the perfect lock of the only perfect geometry of harmonic perfection according to the Pythagoreans, and it is the only perfect harmonic harmonic geometry of nature. And of course, water is, of course, that geometry and the molecule of life and consciousness. But it's not just the molecule of life and consciousness. Within itself, it contains it is a holographic dipole as a molecule for the manifestation of consciousness, and therefore thence also to life. And anyway, I hope you like it. I hope you don't get hung up by the esoteric latter section of this article. But yes, it does need to be fleshed out, but 95% of what you're interested in about water, I put into the first few pages and the last few pages of this article. You can take a look at the geometry and think about it, so it does answer that question. So I don't need to flesh out the rest of the article at this point in time to get to the heart of the matter as far as talking about the perfect harmonic proportionality of water and its relationship to the perfect geometric um, golden ratio triangle of the Pythagoreans, the 108, 36, 36, which is also, too, the secret behind Nikola Tesla's 369. But that would take also an enormous amount of time to explain. It's not so easy. You know, you can understand it, but then you actually have to lead someone up the path to where, it's like, what does this mean? It's like, well, saying it is not so easy. Explaining it is not so easy, but it can get there, but it would be a really long walk. So anyway, I hope you like this little article, and it doesn't need to be fleshed out for you to understand what the nature, the deeper secrets of water is or are. I hope you like the diagram. I left it this way instead of making it by computer. It shows, personal hand. The only thing I wished I did do is I wished I didn't draw the hydrogen and oxygen circles by hand, since making a circle freehand is not so easy, but I don't regret it. Anyway, have a lovely week.